our part two of our conversation with Senator Abaribe, who represents Abia South in the Senate. He's also the leader of minority leader of the Senate. Okay, Senator, welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was saying that with regard to the Nnamdi Kanu, that we're still in court and that we appealed and that the appeal is subsisting and that we are still going through the appeal process.
Okay.
And we appealed because the terms of the bail were varied, and we said that a bail bond is like a contract. If you change the terms of the contract, then you need to let the opposing party know, to be sure that he is aware of that before, and that is, so maybe it will also be a landmark case in terms of bail matters about that in Nigeria.
Now, let me summarize. If I'm wrong, let me know what you think about the Biafran movement as of today. You think that there are so many of them? You think that energy is being not being channeled in one direction? What do you want to see from that movement? Do you want it to continue? Do you want it to join the other Igbo movement? What is your take?
Well, what I think is that there should be a meeting of minds between them, because we have, the Biafran, what is it called now, who said that they are the original ones before Nnamdi Kanu went. I was part of them. Then he went. I think they should come together. I think that having different groups dissipates a lot of energy, I think. I read, of course, that there's a move by people to bring everyone together. But like I said, as much as we are looking to an utopia of Biafra, let us also look inwards and make our homeland great today.
Now, talking about doing that, we have governors in the Southeast. People say that you are very good at talking about the plight of Igbo people in the hands of the federal government, but that it seems like you are silent on the plight of Igbo people in the hands of Igbo governors. They give examples.
Yes, I've heard it. People have told me.
Okay, good. I'm happy that they told you. So they give example with your home state.
People have told me, but I can, for the purpose of this interview, say that what I do is I do what our people also counsel in our local idiom. Then because we have an existential problem coming from the federal government, giving us so much problem. And I think that if you're firing that side and then you're also firing locally and all that, you just waste so much bullets. We know that internally we're not having it very rough. But what I try to do is not to expose our, let's say, differences so much in the public. The reason is also simple too. If you do it, then those people outside will use that to now say to you, what are you complaining about? After all, you are just telling us that this man is not also doing well. And so, for example, I mean, there's some young man, I don't know him, they just said, oh, that they incarcerated him, that it was the Abia state government pushing him and all that, some Emperor Bona. And I went to see the DSS director and said, I need to know why this guy is being kept here. And they said all manners of things. I said, okay, if you think that he has committed an offense against the state and all that, so charge him to court. And he said to me, oh yes, that they already made plans and that the Attorney General's office is charging him to court. And I said, fine, I'm going to be overwatching you to make sure that you charge him to court so that the court will decide whether he should be given bail or not. So those are the kind of interventions I do, but we don't like to, when you're doing those kind of interventions, go on to be telling everybody, oh, I'm doing A, B, or C. You know, there was a time too that there was so much problem about the death and all that in Aba and everywhere. And I was so angry, and everybody was telling me, oh, you represent Aba. And I had to go to the governor direct. And I said, we're so disappointed in you. Why are you doing this? And he said, oh, sorry, we're doing A, B, C, D. We're bringing out the trucks. We're doing this and that. We're going to change the format and all that. That's the kind of thing that I would do. I will not formally come out to attack any Igbo governor. I wouldn't do that.
Mm. Well, that's interesting and answer to that. But also, I wanted to know whether you also see it this way, that just like what you said, the EFCC announced this week about Rocha Sokorocha, and that also undermines your arguments in the Senate when people outside of Igbo land are seeing what is going on. I'll give another example. We see what the governor of Borno State is accomplishing in the last I don't know how long he's been there, 1 year. And if you compare that to the people we have in the East and what they are doing, and some of them have more resources than the governor of Borno State, people see this and people wonder why. What are we going to do if you cannot publicly, for good reasons and the reasons you marshaled out, do something about it? There is a big majority of young people who are looking at the situation in the East, and they are feeling that things are not going well. They don't seem to see anybody who is trying to hold these governors accountable. We don't have any media in the East. Essentially, it's totally no media to hold anybody accountable. The governors are trying to lock up people who are even trying to say anything. A good example is in Imo State. Somebody just posted on Facebook and called the governor, Supreme Court governor, and he was locked up. Why is that happening? Why is the DSS now kind of a policeman of the governor of states? What is going on?
Well, I really don't know. I think also that, and I've made this point elsewhere, that we also sometimes have democracy without Democrats. Criticism, it's a part of democracy, and people are free to tell you anything. And so when you don't have a Democrat and you have an autocrat, it's when you criticize him, then he comes, and then what you do is that you wait for him at the ballot box. And I said, let every young person get involved. You get involved by organizing, you get involved by getting everybody around you to know the problems. And of course, the young people are the people who are very idealistic. I mean, they are the people who will not be thinking about how to pay salaries, how to feed the next person, how to make sure that their investments are, so it is at that point of idealism, which is what you see in the George Floyd, the protests, that it is young people that actually change the world every time. But when the young people too turn around and get very complacent and then continue to blame every other person, then we're really in for a big problem. But I'm telling you also that I have a lot of young people that I discuss and I talk with, and and they give me hope. They give me a lot of hope.
And let's look at a bigger issue. In the Southeast, we have 5 states. It's the only region with 5 states. The other ones, at least, they have 6 states, or one of them, one region has 7. Now, why is it difficult to see such an obvious injustice? And why is it difficult to correct?
Let me put it this way. The state creation that we saw were not done out of the fact of there was a referendum and people agreed on where to go. They were created purely out of military fiat. And so the people who were in charge as military people decided to subdivide as they deemed fit. And some were even done with regard to those who had wives and said, okay, let me create one for my wife and so on and so forth. Those were the kind of things that happened. So there was an attempt in creating states, if you remember, or recreating and putting another one in the Southeast. And for every time that we go for, the conference meetings, constitutional conference and everything, this has always come as, number one. But you find that in the 1999 Constitution, which is, of course, the ground norm which we are using today, the question of creation of states was put in Section 8 and Section 9. And then, of course, there were a lot of hurdles that were put there so that it's not just so easy to wake up and create a state. And I think it's the hurdles that are put in Section 8 and Section 9 that is really the problem with creating states. At the last count, when there was an attempt in, I think it was during the Obasanjo era, and there was a move to create more states to accommodate the Southeast. There were 45 other demands. So what you find is that in each state, there are all manners of fissiparous tendencies. And once you want to say, okay, let us open the door, everybody will say, okay, I want my own too. And that has continually made it impossible for state creation to be done. We were Eastern region. We eventually, as Eastern region, ended up having 5 states from the East and 5 other states from the other part of the Eastern region. The 6th one that was joined was Edo, which came from, so this nation of us agreed to take the Midwest and create it out of the, I think it was Western Nigeria and all that at that time. So, long story short, you can't create state today just for one area. Every other person will have to agree. And I've also had occasion in one other interview to say that when matters affect the Igbos in Nigeria, every other part of Nigeria wants to come together to oppress the Igbos because they would rather resolve their issue using the Igbo head than resolving it on their own. And that's why we also...
Let me ask you a practical question. So if you walk up to a senator from Sokoto, a senator from Castena, or wherever, and say, look, this is not right. You have 6 states here and you have 5 here. Why can't we all agree to balance it? What would they say to you? Is it the same thing they said before that they are doing you a favor, or what would they say?
Well, if you go to them, the man from Niger State will tell you that he's from Bogo and that he actually wants a state of his own, that he's being oppressed by the other man.
Yeah, but within the geographical, the geopolitical setting, he had 6 states. Within his own geographical, geopolitical setting, he has 6. So why isn't that clear?
And that's what I'm telling you. Yes. The history of Nigeria also, and our political development also, it's a factor. It's easier for people who speak Hausa to communicate with each other. If you notice, every one of them is able to speak one language. We are not able to in the South. And so they can understand each other better than us. You follow? And that also gives the reason why it's easier for them to reach a consensus than for us to reach a consensus. You understand?
Yeah.
If I want to reach a consensus with somebody who is from Buguma and all that, and you tell him that he's actually your brother, that people from Amiibo and all that went down that side and, and all that, and you trace the history from the 1800s, 1700s, they will want to skin you are born, you are alive, and say we have nothing to do with you. Of course, we know why. We know that it is still the lingering effects of the Civil War, where it was easier for somebody to say he is not Igbo and therefore will get benefits than any other.
Now, some of the questions I got around this issue, people pointed several instances where they feel that the people in the East are not getting a fair deal in Nigeria. They talk about things like political appointments, things like getting admission into universities. And the question one person asks is this: is there anything that could be going on that would be so unjust and so bad that all the Eastern members of the National Assembly will walk out and say, no, we are not going to be part of this. We're not going to come back until something changes? Or let's say something that is of importance to senators and members of the House from the south, the whole of the southern part of the country. Is there anything that could make them to say, no, what, we're going to walk out, and until something changes, we're not going to let this continue?
Well, we really don't want to force issues to that nature. And let me tell you why we don't. We have 15 members in the Senate, and we are 109 persons. If you remove the Senate president who is sitting on the chair, is 108. And what we need is 2/3 to pass anything. And so if 15 of us leave, we still have 85. So they can pass anything. And so when you know that your numbers are such, because everything in democracy is actually a question of numbers. You don't want to push matters to the point where you want to test your result, because like I said, except if we agree with every other group, especially the groups from the South, you may not be certain that when you walk out, they're going to follow you to walk out. And if you walk out and then it passes without you, that further diminishes you and actually makes you far more irrelevant. So in making our case and making sure that we do it to some extent. For example, when it was a matter of the loan, if you recall and you watch the video, that we fought and fought and fought and fought, and we fought to the extent that we had to go into an executive session and said, okay, how do we do it? You understand? And then we said, okay, we'll meet as a Southeast caucus. We go back to the House. We get the House to delay it so that we can have a resolution from this way. So, and it was because at the inception, when the things were being conceived and written and all that, nobody said anything. Don't forget that loans and all that, before it comes to the National Assembly, passes through the Executive Council. And we have Igbos in the Executive Council, and nobody heard them say anything. So, most of the time when things happen, we are blamed, but we have never heard of any fight inside the Executive Council by the Igbos to say, okay, why are you doing this? Because it's against us. So you also know all of us are guilty. Let me just put it that way. The Holy Book says that all have sinned and come short of glory of God. All of us that are the Southeast political leaders, we have actually not served our people properly. And of course, because we haven't heard, and because this now came from the executives already passed there, it comes to us, then we try to do our best to do that. But of course, if you come from a state with their benefits, and I'm saying don't do it because I'm not benefiting, you will say no, because I'm benefiting, let me go ahead. But it's not really because people were not benefiting. I can tell you for sure, and take my word for it, the reason why all these things pass like this and all that is that the people who are in the party called APC are so scared of saying anything or doing anything that they say it will be against their president. I'm telling you, that's what we find.
Now let me ask you, it's connected to what you're saying. What's the relationship between people who are in the National Assembly from the Southeast with people who are in the executive from the Southeast? Do you guys meet and talk? Is there any kind of coordination?
Unfortunately, few and far between us. It's one of my biggest regrets that we don't come together to meet and to agree on things. And the reason is simple too. Most of the members from the Southeast are from a different political party. Most of the members in the executive are from a different political party. And so they see us not as, brothers and sisters. And so you call them for a meeting. Sometimes they don't come. Sometimes they find one reason or the other because they're also scared. There's a culture of fear inside this party called APC. We're not discussing APC, but I can tell you there's a culture of fear. Oh no. You don't want to be seen as going against the party and their whatever their
I got that.
supreme leader said. I'm using that in inverted comma.
Good, I got that.
The question of supreme leader and matters of that.
Now, thinking along that line, this lack of coordination and the culture of fear. When you see someone like former Governor Joseph Hallow, when he came out from prison, we saw pictures of the executive and members of the Senate going to see him. I don't know if you went to see him, but what do you think about that? Because to people who are watching from outside, they see someone who went to prison accused of stealing money from the state and then freed on technicalities, because it's not like the court was able to say he wasn't guilty, and then people going to celebrate. Even in the House, they said it's a badge of honor to go to prison, for any politician to go to prison. What do you think about that? How does that make you feel? Especially as someone who is a politician, because sometimes, we say in Igbo, or others, people tend to put everybody in that they're the same people, the same thing.
Well, that's Nigerian political culture. You understand. We went as a leadership. He's a member of the leadership, he's chief whip, and of course, the Nigerian political culture is that you go and then felicitate with the person. The morality part of it, you usually lay down, because what everybody feels is that, well, on the question of you being charged with all that, you got to carry your own burden. But, well, if it's a member of your leadership group, then of course you have to go. If you now ostracize the person, then the assumption is that you have found him guilty yourself.
Okay. Now, someone like Rochas Okorocha, we now had from the EFCC, we got money from him and we're giving it back to Imo State. Is it okay for the Senate to still consider him an honorable member of the Senate and accept him as one of their own? And what does that say to the Nigerian people, that it's okay for a former governor to steal money from the states and then give some back to the EFCC and continue to live his life as a senator?
I think it comes back to the same thing that I said earlier, that it comes to each and every one of us making a value judgment, not the court making a judgment. You understand? And so you may have your own private feelings, but globally, if he's in the Senate and he's a senator, and the assumption is that people voted him in to bring him in there. I remember in the States, in the United States, I read about some guy from Louisiana, who
Jefferson.
In those days, I don't think it's now. Before that was found to be a crook and all that, and people just will always return him to the Senate, because he was their own guy, so that's how it is. I would want this not to be the standard by which we are judged. But for us, our own is simple. Once somebody has won election and come to the Senate, you have to accept him. These people that brought him there, warts and all.
Okay, that's good. So let's get to the Senate itself. People are saying that it's very expensive to run the National Assembly the way it's structured now. Some are saying that it should be scrapped and or that you guys should be part-timers. What is your take on that? And why do we need 37 billion naira to renovate the National Assembly complex?
I know where you're going. I think the Senate spokesman had dealt, so was spokesman of the Senate. I had to deal with this issue. And the question or the whatever happens, whatever somebody is saying now, is also the same. This is how I dealt with it then. The budget of the National Assembly has never been above 3% of the national budget. 3%. Never. When Emir Sanusi was a
central bank governor,
the central bank governor, he used the National Assembly as a backdrop to do all the things he was doing and made a very spurious claim that the National Assembly was taking 25% of the national budget. And when we challenged him, he said, oh, that he got it from the National Bureau of Statistics. And we said, okay, where? And he went ahead and just started talking nonsense. At that time, the budget of the central bank, which he was implementing, was 320 billion. And the budget of the National Assembly was 128 billion. So you could see that personally, he had far more money than the total National Assembly together. Now, this 128 billion and about, which is our own budget, is for an arm of government. An arm of government. The other arm of government was 112 billion. We're almost at par. That is the judiciary. Then you have the executive with the humongous money of trillions. And at every point that somebody wants to make a statement, they go back and say, oh, National Assembly, as if you remove the National Assembly means anything. And I'm telling you that the budget that the central bank governor coordinates is bigger than the budget for the whole National. And National Assembly is the House of Rep, Senate, which other one now? There are just too many things, and of course, the National Assembly Service Commission. So the fact is, cost of governance is high. We agree. What are the components of that cost of governance? That is what you're going to look at. Does a governor need 20 vehicles to move on the streets? Does the president need 50 vehicles long convoy? Does a director in does a minister need a convoy? A vehicle plus this plus outrider plus A, B, and C. Do we really need all this? Does a governor need 100 aides? Does the president need 1,000 aides? So these are the things that actually make up the cost of governance. And if you want to cut waste, it's so easy. You stop the hedonistic lifestyle, and it's been done. Peter Obi did it. And if you hear from him and read the story, then you will know what goes on. Where I live here. I live alone. I don't get the government to pay for my anything. I don't have troops outside waiting and trying to take care of me. I don't have all that. So it is. So what I'm saying is that in the 60s, we also had some. We did the parliamentary system. We also had part-time people and all that. And what did it result to? It also resulted in a coup. And people also accused people of 10%ers and all that. So I think it's the mindset of our people that will determine how you will live as a government. That's what I think.
Okay, let me round up quickly. Some just to touch on some things that most people they won't forgive me for not presenting to you. All right. So so when you see something like loans that the government is getting, and you touched on it in that it started from the executive before getting to the Senate and the House, and probably by the time it gets there, you don't have the numbers, you don't have the votes to be able to stop that. But today, during the speech that the president gave on Democracy Day, he thanked the National Assembly for being like very good to him in a democracy. And people look at the Senate, for instance, and say that the Senate is a rubber stamp of the executive. Even when we have situations where the one party is in charge in the Senate and the House of Rep, the question is, how do you feel? I know you're in the opposition party, and I know that most of the time probably you vote against some of these things. But how do you feel? Do you feel that you are accomplishing anything? Do you feel like you are accomplishing anything in the Senate, or do you feel frustrated?
Sometimes, well, I can hear you very well now.
Okay.
Okay, in 30 minutes time. Can we?
Yeah, we'll be done. We'll be done. Yeah, we'll be done.
What I'm saying is that sometimes we are frustrated. Of course, we can be, but you can be frustrated. But it's a democracy. Anything that passes in the House is passed. There's nothing else you can do about that. And we can justify anything. But I can tell you that we do our own job, and other people do theirs. That's just the thing. Yeah, sometimes I feel personally frustrated, but I mean, the reason of being a democracy, and that's what a lot of people don't get, is that you can have your say, but when the voting is done and people have their way, then you have to live with the consequences of what has done and also accept it as part of your own decision. The real problem has always been that we don't want to take, responsibility for what we agree on. That is just it.
Now, people.
Yeah, I have my guests here, and I have to really.
Okay, I know. One more question. One more question, and we go. People want to know. You are outspoken, and your courage, and it's obvious. They want to know. Why is it that other senators don't have it? I know you explained that your role as the minority leader is one, but I don't think that any senator cannot come out and have a press conference and say, I don't support this, to be visible and to show that they're passionate about something. I want to ask you, why is that? And then have you paid any price for the positions you are taking?
Well, let me put it this way. I can't answer for other people. Now. Other people, it's only when you see them that you can answer. So why is it that you're not getting up and talking about us? So I have my style. Other people have their own style. Some people might just be a little more accommodating. I may not be. You understand? And of course, you pay a price every day for not being a conformist. Once you're not a conformist, you pay a price for it. And it's whether you have the what I mean, to pay the price.
Yeah. Some people don't have it. Some people don't have it. Okay, one last one, and then we are gone.
This is the last one now.
They will kill me. This one, they will kill me if I don't ask you. So, are we looking at Governor Abaribe in the future?
You're looking at 3 years ahead with the coronavirus and everything there, and you want me to make a prediction?
No. It's one of the questions.
It's not time to make a prediction. When the time comes, you will get to know.
You get that. Or are we looking at
just 1 year inside the Senate? Well, let's finish our work first here before we start looking at tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Senator Abaribe. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That has been Senator Abaribe representing Abia South. Senator Abaribe representing Abia South, and he's also the minority leader in the Senate. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Continue to watch Iroko Post TV, and we'll give you some other programs, and we will keep interviewing people for you. And we have guests that are lined up, exciting people, newsmakers. And if you're interested in talking to us, of course, you can reach us through our contact on social media.
UK, Canada, Italy, Ireland, or Spain, and you send money to Nigeria, to Ghana, to Kenya, to Tanzania, or Uganda, you should download SendWave on your phone. SendWave is safe, secure, reliable, fast, and more importantly, it is fee-free. Absolutely no fees. For your first transaction, use the promo code DOCTOR, and SendWave will add $5 or €5 or £5 to the money you send. Dash! Just because you know Dr. Damages. What are you waiting for? Here is how to do it. Thank you.